Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings, salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, a weekly show where you introduce to some of the best creators from all over the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I'm your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guest on this week's episode is indie writer extraordinaire Ben Schenkman is here. What's up, Ben? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you?
Oh, we're fine. We're all fine here. Now, thank you. How are you? There's a line for you. We're happy that you're here, Ben. We're also happy that you are here who may be watching or listening to this right now. So do yourselves a favor. Do not forget to like and share. If you're watching this live or on a replay, thank you for doing so. If you have any questions for our guest of honor, Ben Schenkman, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. More than happy to take those as given respectively. With all that out of the way, Ben, what would you say were some of your favorite books or writers growing up as a youngling?
Oh, it's really hard to pick any one particular author because and this is really thanks to my mom. My mom was like a prolific so in New England we call them tag sales, but depending on where you are, it could be a rummage sale or garage sale or whatever. She would literally bring home trash bags full of mass market paperback novels. And I would cobble together the different series out of what it is that she brought me and figure out what it is that I could read, what I could finish reading, what I could continue, because none of it really matched up. And I had such a broad exposure to sci-fi and fantasy. But yeah, as far as like some of my favorite authors as a youngling, I have to say I was absolutely enthralled with the Dragonlance series by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. That was one of my absolute favorites. The original, the first trilogy, the second trilogy, the prequels, all of it. So that was a must read and reread for me. I also got really into Robert Heinlein for a while, and probably at a little bit too young of an age because my mom, who was like a hippie, went to Woodstock kind of hippie, had a collection of Heinlein's paperbacks, and I remember one of his shortest, like little pulp ones, Double Star, being one of my favorites early on. So we can leave it at that. Dragonlance was one of my really early loves as far as fantasy novels.
All right. Nice. Very nice. What would you say are some of your favorite movies, past or present?
Oh, I've watched so many movies. So it's Star Wars month. So I will have to say I did love the Star Wars series. Frankly, almost all of them, four or five, the original three, which is technically, I guess, like the second set, but then also the newest ones. I didn't love episodes 1, 2, and 3 as much for various reasons. So some of those movies were probably in my favorites, though I will say I'm Jewish, and that kind of humor has always appealed to me. And Mel Brooks is one of my favorite like writer, director, actors of all time, and all of his parodies. So like as much as I was exposed to Star Wars at a young age, I was then also watching Spaceballs constantly. And then as I grew older, less and less of the jokes went over my head. So like that's really like an old favorite of mine, is the parody of Star Wars.
Good picks. You excited about the new one coming out next year? Spaceballs, the new one. Everybody's coming back to be a part of it. Minus John Candy, of course, but Rick Moranis is coming back. Mel Brooks is pushing 100 years old, but he's still going to be coming back. So how do you feel about that?
I am I'm sad that they didn't actually call it The Search for More Money, because that's what it was originally supposed to be
Yeah.
called, right? But I'll forgive them simply for the fact that they're actually doing a sequel. So I'm absolutely thrilled, and I'm just crossing my fingers that Mel Brooks, I'm just crossing my fingers for his appearance in the movie.
Yeah, should be something to see, that's for sure. Pushing 100 years old, Mel, and you're still kicking. Goodness gracious. I don't know how he does it. Flip side of the coin, though, favorite television series, past or present?
One of my favorite television shows, which I think actually dovetails into some of my writing. I love The West Wing. So The West Wing, I think, is a master class in writing snappy dialogue, and the banter that Aaron Sorkin created as part of just on top of the very real and enjoyable characters in The West Wing. I think if any writer, whether it's screenwriting, novels, stories, whatever, I think uh, watching The West Wing and understanding the witty banter there would be like perfect. So yeah, The West Wing is absolutely one of my favorite series.
Definitely a good one. I remember watching the movies that he wrote, A Few Good Men and The American President. Very, very good stuff. Still, snappy dialogue. So well done. Well done for sure. Some of the best performances by any actors alive, to be perfectly honest with you. So those are good too, for sure. So when did you start writing?
I started writing a very long time ago, though my journey in writing has been very much a sine wave of ebb and flow. I remember when I was in elementary school or grade school, and I wrote short stories, these little like booklets, like with crayon, and I would write these little short stories for these little books that I would share with like the couple friends that I had in school at the time. And I did that. I wrote short stories in middle school, one of which actually won an award. Like it was one of those things where you had those little blue composition books, and within the span of like a free period, you wrote a short story, and then it was submitted into like a contest.
Mhm.
And apparently I remember winning that award and then promptly never remembering anything about it again until like I was in my 30s. But then, I wrote poetry in high school because I was disaffected, and uh, and really I didn't start writing anything long form until my, let's say, mid 20s. Uh, the first novel that I drafted. So actually, so my first book, My Boss is the Devil, which is the first book in the Devil You Know series. I finished I wrote like 20% of it in when I was working a job that I didn't love after college. So I was probably 25 when I was writing it. And then I wrote like 20% of it, and then life got busy and I put it away for a very long time until National Novel Writing Month 2014. And then I was on assignment in Dearborn, Michigan for work, and I had nothing better to do, and so I joined the contest for National Novel Writing Month. And as we all know, the only thing that you win from that is finishing, if you manage to. And I finished the draft of My Boss is the Devil. And then I didn't really write anything else for a long time. Again, life gets in the way, and we have a hard time being creative depending on what we've got going on in our lives. And I shelved that book because I edited it myself, and then had a professional editor take a pass through it. And then I was doing some querying, and this was over, this what year is it? So this was like, well over a decade ago. And um I I was querying self-publishing or independent publishing not having had as much of a build in confidence that it has in these past years. And so I got a lot of rejections from various agents, and I decided to shelve the book for a very long time. So like it was nearly a decade later again that I dusted it off and revised it and had some people read it, and then published it in 2023, which, so it's hard to believe that I've really only been doing this like seriously as a avocation for almost 3 years. But yeah, I realize that's really a long story short to say, like, I started writing as a youngling, and then gave it up for a very long time until the bug bit me after I published my first novel.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. And congratulations on that, by the way. We all have our own journey of how, we write stories and put a piece of them together and get them published. Celtic Blues in the chat. He says, "We are grateful that you dusted it off," says Celtic Blue to you. So
yeah, thank you. I'm happy that I did too, and it really picked up after that, because as I was publishing that first book, I wrote the sequel in 2 months, and then I wrote the third book 3 months after that, and then I just kept writing books. Like, I've got 6 published works right now, not including the 2 audiobooks that I also narrate and produce myself. So 3 years later, 8 published works, and I'm still going.
Yes! That's awesome!
That is, no, seriously. You turned the engine on, you kept going, and then you went up to 9,000 RPM. That's good. And you just kept on going, man. You went 200 miles an hour at Talladega Super Speedway like Cole Trickle did at Days of Thunder. So well done, man. Rocked it, shocked it. I'm happy.
I love that clip so much. Thank you for that.
you, kind sir, are so welcome. Celtic Blue just dropped. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I got tons and tons of clips that we use.
So good.
Depending on what the conversation is and what the topic is, mind you, Ben, we'll drop a few little nuggets of pop culture history in there in the mix. So I thought that was appropriate. The fact that you got this book dusted off, you got it done, and then all of a sudden the creative juices were flowing. And then you wrote book 2, and then book 3 came out soon after. I'm thinking, wow, this guy went from 0 to 200, in a very, what do you call it, like short amount of time, right? That's just one of those things. Celtic, we are going to do our best to keep those clips coming for you, man. I have a few left, so who knows if they're going to be, used appropriately during the course of this discussion. Once again, this is Anti Quote. Don't forget to like and share if you're joining us live or on a replay. Thank you for doing so. If you have any questions for Ben Schenkman, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who has chimed in thus far. What would you say are some of the rewards in general about being a writer?
It's not money. I'll tell you that for free. Yeah, I love being an author, because the best reward that I get is when someone, and frankly, when I say someone, I mean someone that I don't know. Like, it's nice that I have friends that I've had a long time that will read my work, and many of them are also like extremely critically minded themselves. So I know if it was bad, they would tell me. But there's a hit of dopamine that you get from a complete stranger reading your book and then saying, "I loved that." And really, that's all you need. Like, they could say, "And here's why," and that's good because that helps other readers know whether they'll like my work. But all I need to know is that there are people reading and enjoying my stories, and that's going to be enough for me, because I write in a currently relatively unpopular genre, that being urban fantasy, which falls under the larger umbrella of contemporary fantasy, which oddly enough is somehow more popular than urban fantasy. But if I was looking to make money, I would write in different genres. But instead, my brain keeps telling these urban fantasy stories, and as long as you, the reader, enjoy them, I'm here for that. So I think the artistic expression coupled with some critical success, and when I say success, I mean people read the story and like it, as opposed to like having the work panned or something. That's really, I think, the most rewarding parts of it for me. Uh, but really, writing in many ways is its own reward because it's a creative outlet for us. But I will say I am at least like, it's not vanity. I we have to know why we write, and we have to know why we publish, because some writers never publish and some people who publish don't love writing. And those reasons are important. So while writing is its own reward, I want my art to be consumed by people. And so that's why the most things that I get out of being an author go hand in hand with the people who actually read my stories.
Well, there you go. Mic drop moment. Flip side of the coin, though. What would you exactly? What would you say are some of the challenges about being a writer?
First though, don't. This is for other people. Ryan knows. Don't actually drop mics. They're expensive and they break. And I'm sorry. What was the question again, Ryan?
Oh, geez. It was the opposite side of the fence. What are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
Time. Like, the linear progression of time is one of the biggest challenges with being a writer. There's only so much time in the day, and this is not my full-time job. I have a full-time job. I have a son. I have a partner. I have other hobbies, believe it or not, even though I spend a lot less time working on those these days. So I really think, like, the most challenging thing to being a writer is making sure that I am writing. I have a daily practice that I want to make progress on at least one writing related project. And I do my best to keep my neurospicy brain from going in 15 different directions at once and trying to focus on like two. But yeah, time is the challenge, in that focusing on any one particular thing, trying to make sure that we're doing the right things. I've got 2 finished manuscripts that are in the process of needing edits if I'm going to publish them, but I also have other stories that are in here that want to get written. So I think, like, yeah, one of the biggest challenges is just how do we do all the things that we want to do?
That's very true. Timing is everything, folks. Timing is everything, and then the other thing is tempus fugit. Time is always fleeting. So there is that. There is that. Any pieces of advice you would offer to aspiring writers out there?
There's a lot that aspiring writers need to know, but also I want people to stop using the word aspiring for themselves. Like, we get what it means, and no shade for you saying it, Ryan, but for you out there, if you're a writer and you're writing, then you're not aspiring. You're a writer. And I think one of the things, and this is maybe a little different than some of the usual advice that I give for writers, is you need to apply the same confidence to accept your artistic output as you give to other people. It's one of the hardest things to do, is applying the same grace and understanding to ourselves that we give to other people, because handling other people's challenges and problems is easy, but applying that same logic to ourselves is hard. And when writers describe themselves by saying aspiring, they put themselves in a box that says, I'm not a real writer because I haven't done X, Y, and Z. The same thing as the, like, aspiring author trying to say that I haven't published a book yet, and therefore I'm not a real writer because I haven't published a book. But then there are also people who will say that me, a self-published or independent publisher, because I actually manage my own small press at Caffeinated Terrier Press, but it's one that I made myself. And people would say that that's not legitimate, and that I'm not a real author because I haven't been published by a different publishing company. And so you see, these are all these labels that we're putting on ourselves to delegitimize the reality of the art that we're producing. And so I think for the writers out there, you need to give yourself the same opportunity for confidence by not downplaying your accomplishments. So I think that's one of the biggest things. My usual advice is you can't publish a book that isn't written, so write the book. Like don't agonize and edit as you go and just sit and spin forever. You have to actually do the thing. But maybe again, taking it back a step, you need to have the confidence that what you're doing is legitimate, and that will help you be confident in finishing the thing that you're doing instead of second guessing and doubting yourself all the time.
So in the other words of Morgan Freeman, he's right, it's very good advice, and thank you for sharing those. Wow, you have your own small press. That's pretty cool. So congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. I actually, it's funny when I was looking to dust off My Boss is the Devil, I got in touch with, so I was on Facebook, and a friend of mine who's also at the time was a self-published author. He invited me to a local authors group on Discord that I joined. And then that led to me forming my own small press, Caffeinated Terrier. And then that's kind of become like the evolution of our Connecticut and Massachusetts authors co-op, in that I work with members of the co-op. If they want to independently publish their books, the press is a way for them to do that. So, my friend Lori Nielsen published her debut Down the Rabbit Hole through my press. My friend Tal Good, who's an independent author in her own right, has published prior to that, is now publishing through the small press. Her latest Fairy Forensics just came out in this month. So it's been really an evolution of my own, not just writing, but also because I do my own formatting. I work with designers to get covers done. So like it's really broadened my overall experience as not just an author, but as an independent publisher.
That's really cool. Do you try to stick with the small press as far as like what genres do you stick with just urban fantasy, or is it open to writers of other genres who may want to contribute or maybe join you in this venture?
Yeah, if you're a Connecticut or Massachusetts author and you want to join the authors co-op, you can go to my website, benschenkman.com. You can go to caffeinatedterrierpress.com and reach out. We have a Discord. And no, it's not any one particular genre, though I will say I will probably establish imprints for certain genres. So like if I had someone who wanted to start publishing, horror with Caffeinated Terrier, we might establish a sub imprint with another funny caffeinated name, just to represent that body of work that was horror. Because for genre, sometimes it's important to differentiate, but sometimes it's not. So yeah, they should reach out. I'm happy to work with folks.
No, that's great. Unfortunately, Massachusetts and Connecticut is outside my territory. I'm a Marylander, so I unfortunately would not qualify for this team, but it's all good.
So to be fair, you don't have to be in Connecticut or Massachusetts to join the co-op portion.
Oh, okay.
Because or at least join the Discord,
Right.
because we spend a lot of time just helping each other out.
Mhm.
We'll workshop language and blurbs. We'll talk about marketing and publishing. We have channels where we can just put out our social media for boosting and sharing. So yeah, it's people can, if they're interested, they can join, but it's more just if you want to actually publish through Caffeinated Terrier Press, we're right now we're limiting it to Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Gotcha. All right, just throwing that out there because I write short stories. That's what I write. I write westerns, but I also like have dabbled a little bit in other genres like coming of age mixed with fantasy.
I like that. I mean, coming of age is a really good trope in fantasy. Can I share one exciting piece of news that I don't think I've talked about on any show so far?
So I guess we're getting an exclusive. This is an and I quote exclusive. Yeah, go right ahead. The floor is yours, young man.
Young man,
you're for it, young Jedi. Just do it.
You're my favorite now, Ryan.
Oh, there you go.
So, and I quote, I am both organizing and publishing a new short story through a fantastic urban fantasy anthology that's going to be going out on Kickstarter the pre-launch like follow page should be coming out like next week, but in a few months we're going to launch the actual Kickstarter for an anthology called Arcane Awakenings, an urban fantasy anthology, and we have 18 authors with 17 brand new stories. That being one of the stories is co-authored. And I have a fantastic new short story that that I think anyone who enjoys my work is going to want to read, featuring my first female main character, and it's actually some my first like primary female main character. My first series has a secondary main that's a woman, but this is entirely a woman focus. So yeah, anthology is coming out later this year, but as soon as it drops, like keep an eye on my social media. We want to break the Kickstarter algorithm and get like more than 200 followers in the first week.
Man, that's just
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah! Yes! Yes!
I did.
I also love that show.
Yeah, we had to bring it out, man. We had to bring it out. And Ben, you are so money you don't even know it. That's just awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. And yes, we will keep an eye as a community at And I Quote Studios. We'll keep an eye on that. I'm gonna follow the pre-launch page on Kickstarter, because I do that for a lot of my buddies who do a lot of Kickstarters every year to put up, whether it's their comic books or anthologies, whatever. Because Lord knows there's a million things going on Kickstarter right now, which is beyond ridiculous. So many creative people, yes, but it's also it's like I can't split my money to all 50,000 of you. I'm sorry, but no, that's great. That's fantastic. Someone had an idea earlier about a possible spinoff of your small press. Emery chimes in. They say caffeinated Cthulhu.
I like that it's Cat Cthulhu because, as we all know, cats are
Cthulhu,
secretly eldritch creatures.
Mm.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of like, I love puns. For anyone who knows my work, and just to introduce anyone who doesn't, I love a good pun. Also, I am sarcastic to a fault. So like I think the idea that we had someone asked whether I would consider publishing children's books through Caffeinated Terrier, and I said I don't know that I would do that, but I would probably start a sub imprint that was Decaffeinated Terrier Press, because caffeine isn't good for kids.
Yeah, that's that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Once again, this is And I Quote with Ben Schenkman, the guest of honor. Don't forget to like and share. If you have any questions, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. I am curious, though, about this one that came out not too long ago. How did Let Sleeping Gods Lie? How did that come about?
Ooh, that's the OG cover too. I have since put out a new fully illustrated cover on that one. I do like this one because, again, it's the raccoons front and center, and who can be mad about that? So what did you want to know about this one? Just anything?
How did this the idea for the story come about? What was it like writing it? Or if someone is unfamiliar with it, what's a non-spoiler synopsis?
Ooh, I can give you the weirdest log line comparison that I can. So Let Sleeping Gods Lie is Harry Dresden meets Indiana Jones in Lee Bardugo's ninth house, but works for Greenpeace. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it.
So Let Sleeping Gods Lie follows Corbin Pierce, who is an ex-Ivy League community college professor, who is an anthropologist, archaeologist by training, whose self-imposed job is to be a steward of the magical like flora and fauna of the area. Let Sleeping Gods Lie, and then the whole series that I'm writing, which is called The Chronicles of Corbin Pierce, is really about it's really kind of an environmentalist take on magic. The magic system is very based in animism, with a focus on indigenous themes. The main character is not indigenous himself. I am not, so it's not a perspective that I'm going to write from, but I do my best to respectfully incorporate indigenous themes and folklore into the story. So the reason why this story came about is I was talking to my friend Lori, the other author that I mentioned, and I said, what if this story about this thing near the college that we went to, because Lori and I both went to Southern Connecticut State University, which is in New Haven, Connecticut. And there's a very famous Algonquin myth of the area. It's the legend of the sleeping giant, which is a state park in Hamden, which is the city or the town next door to New Haven. I said, what about this? And she said, you absolutely need to write that because I need to read it. And then it happened. I wrote the book. She read it, and then I published it in October at the end of last year. So yeah, it's a fun story. It's my most traditional urban fantasy thus far because it really is. It's my take on Harry Dresden, only in a smaller city with a different kind of bent to it. I will say that in honor of the struggles of the indigenous peoples of the area, 10% of all sales from Let Sleeping Gods Lie and the subsequent series. So like if I do an audiobook, that too, any format, 10% of my proceeds go to a 501c3 charity called Not Our Native Daughters, which seeks to solve the missing, murdered, and exploited Indigenous women's crisis.
It's a good. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's a good cause. Doing something to help other people out. That's fantastic. So someone's got to start the slow clap, even though we can't really do it on the show. But there it is. Exactly. I don't know if you remember this one. Charlie and Emilio look at each other and they say, "Golf clap."
Golf
clap. Men at Work. There you go.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Men at Work. Yeah, that's one of my my best friend who lives in Harrisburg. He lives up there in Harrisburg, PA. That's one of his all-time favorite movies. I'm like, really? You like that movie? He's like, oh yeah, you kidding me? Emilio and Charlie in the same movie? Come on, man.
It's very classic 80s.
It is.
So I mean, like, it's one of those movies I remember fondly, but I don't want to watch it again because I fear it won't have aged well.
Yeah. But that's one of my friends in the state of PA. That's one of his favorites. So there you go, Jeff. We give you a brief shout out here. And good Lord. Oh, gee willikers. But this one in particular, My Brother's Keeper. First of all, the cover is very, very intriguing. You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention. What exactly is My Brother's Keeper, and how did this story come together?
Fantastic question. So My Brother's Keeper is a Jewish urban fantasy. And I say that because I want the Jewish part to be forward, because there's a lot of Jewish culture, and specifically like Reform Jewish culture, because that's how I was raised. But the story came about because it has a very big plot twist in it. And I imagined the plot twist first. And so I almost wrote this book backwards in that I knew what was going to happen at the very end. And then I had to write the book to get there. So My Brother's Keeper, which is the first book in the cycle of Ash, follows Max Asher, who is a private eye who flies home to Connecticut to bury his twin brother Solomon. So the book opens at the scene in the cemetery where the funeral is happening. And when I say Jewish urban fantasy, like, it starts with Jewish burial traditions. So it's not that it isn't an urban fantasy. In fact, it's an urban fantasy with very like noir vibes. It's darker, it's grittier than the other work that I've done. But I even had, it was out on NetGalley for a while, and I had a reviewer give it 3 stars, which is fine, but like 3 stars with a very detailed and positive review. But their experience of the book was not diminished, but like impacted by their unfamiliarity with any Jewish culture. So if you're from the East Coast, at least like, probably the mid-Atlantic north, you're probably at least familiar enough with Jewish culture from television and movies and pop culture that you're going to do fine with it. But, it's important to note the Judaism in it because it's so relevant to the characters and the storyline.
Ooh, my goodness gracious. It's a very nice cover too, by the way.
I love this cover. It's so
Really
good.
good cover. Yeah. They, the old saying is never judge the book by the, but we do it every single day of every single week, and we do it every second. So if the cover doesn't wow me, or at least sell me to a point, I'm not going to look at the back of the book and read the synopsis. I'm just not going to care. But all your covers, by the way, very intriguing stuff. Just throwing that out there. I just want you to know that, period. Especially when you and I spoke in an email getting ready to prep for the show. You sent me the covers of some of your previous works, and I looked at My Boss is a Devil, and I'm like, I believe we've all experienced that at our jobs, or previous jobs. For those of you who have gone through that, what do you call that? That rigmarole of having a not so kind worded superior. But no, it's a very, very good movie. It's a very, very good cover. So that's excellent stuff. That's excellent stuff. Have there been any special memories for you from being at book signings or other events, whether you're there as the vendor or there as the attendee?
I haven't done a lot of in-person book events yet. I've been doing more. I just did an event in Danbury, Connecticut last weekend as part of the Fantasy Authors Legion, which is like a East Coast group that supports indie authors. And I'm actually going to be doing, for anyone interested and in or around West Hartford, Connecticut, next, so not tomorrow, the 10th, but the 17th, I'm going to be doing a book signing at the West Hartford Barnes and Noble in Blueback Square, as part, again, of the Fantasy Authors Legion. So if you want to come see me and pick up a signed copy of my book, you can do that. I think my favorite, the thing that I enjoy most about the in-person events is I get to talk to people about what kind of books they like to read. And then I get to tell them enough about mine to sell them on it. And I think so far my favorite memory is from this past event. Like a week ago, there was someone that came in and, I asked, what kind of books do you like to read? And he said, oh, I really like urban fantasy. And like, urban fantasy, as I mentioned, is not a hugely popular genre these days. And to have someone at my table say, I like urban fantasy. And I said to him, have I got a treat for you? And then I went through the spiel about all of the books that I had on my table. And he ended up picking up like a complete series. Well, the first 3 books, because the 4th one is coming out later this year. But the first 3 books in the Devil You Know series just like sold. So yeah, the thing that I love the most is when I can really connect with a reader of the genre. Like I can convince a lot of people to give the books a try, but it's nice when it's someone who just genuinely enjoys urban fantasy and isn't like, I'll give it a go.
That's really cool. That's really, because you're right. Some genres don't get as much love as other genres or subgenres do. I just started reading, well, not started reading, but I'm in the midst of reading what is it? It's sci-fi mixed with a little bit of fantasy, and it's called Zeta 5 by R.D. Marino. So that's been pretty good so far. And then I started getting introduced. I know I'm probably going to break the internet when I say this. I started reading, by the way, one of the guests on my show recommended this as an entry point, one of their books, and it's the subgenre of romantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's called Fangs of Fate by Rebecca Parcha. So there is that. I started reading that, and I'm intrigued by it, actually. It's been a good experience reading that, what do you call it, story within the context of its series, because it is continuing, ongoing type series. So I'm starting to spread my wings a little bit, because I'm used to reading certain genres that I enjoy, but once in a while I like to step out of the comfort zone a little bit. So nothing wrong with that.
How do you feel about urban fantasy, Ryan? Can I sell you on the genre?
I'm trying to think of where's the one that where is it? No, that's not it. I've tried reading the Dresden Files or the Jim Butcher. Was it Jim Butcher, right? Jim Butcher. Yeah. It was the first book in this. It wasn't one of the later ones that I probably should have started with, because I read parts of the first one. I just couldn't get into it. But I probably should have started with a different entry in the Dresden series, because people keep raving about how great Harry Dresden in his series is and how great of a writer was Jim Butcher. is so I've had a little bit of experience with what is known as urban fantasy, but I haven't really, what do you call it, dipped all my toes into the water. But I'm willing to give it a shot because I like fantasy as a respectable, like a regular, a standard genre.
Mhm.
So
The thing that I love the most about urban fantasy is as a genre, it tends to pull on others.
mhm,
So,
yeah,
if you're talking about a fantasy book, epic fantasy, you have usually a story in a secondary world. So there's a lot of world building that happens, and so you get less genre bending because epic fantasy has a lot that it needs to kind of do for itself. Whereas urban fantasy usually it takes place in a contemporary real world setting. So, Jim Butcher with Harry Dresden has Chicago. I have New Haven. All of my books take place in New Haven, Connecticut, because it's a city that I know very well. It's part of where I grew up. And urban fantasy, then, because you're not building a secondary world, it lets you lean into other aspects of the storytelling, which is why a lot of urban fantasy really gets mixed with thrillers, crime and mystery, noir. Harry Dresden is a wizard for hire, very much kind of like a, almost in some ways it hits buddy cop territory with some of the characters, but effectively, it's a mystery. A lot of the times it's a supernatural mystery wrapped up in an urban setting. So I think, like, depending on what kind of books you like, you could very easily find an urban fantasy that hits the themes that you enjoy. So for example, if you like mysteries,
which I do. I like that, and I like noir because I love
yeah.
Maltese Falcon and Casablanca.
So then, My Brother's Keeper, you absolutely should read, because what you get in a book like that is you get an urban setting that is well fleshed out and it's very lived in. You get magic because I have a defined magic system in My Brother's Keeper and the Cycle of Ash. The magic is based very much on Jewish scripture. So it hits a very magical realism point where it's magic, but it's very tied into the real world. But then you get a really big mystery vibe because the main character, that's why so many urban fantasies feature a private investigator or some kind of, mercenary like profession where they get to insert themselves into the business of the city. And so if you like mystery, start with My Brother's Keeper. If you like action and adventure, start with Let Sleeping Gods Lie. If you like, all of my books have witty banter, but if you like sarcasm and dark comedy, dark humor, with kind of a lower magic threshold, you start with The Devil You Know and My Boss is the Devil. So like urban fantasy offers so much within the genre for people to enjoy.
If that wasn't a great sales pitch on this network show, I don't know what the heck is. So well done, Ben Schenkman. Yeah, give him all the money, please, because he's so money. He's just money. It's fantastic, and thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, no, I like stories that involve mystery. Not grew up, but I watched movies later in life like Maltese Falcon and Rear Window and Casablanca and Indiana Jones and I've seen X-Files, I've seen the television series Supernatural, I've seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If someone were to ask me what are your favorite genres, particularly I like adventure stories, to be honest. Like I just like that two-fisted, rough and tumble, go on the journey to find the MacGuffin. Because I grew up on Indiana Jones, and I love Indiana Jones. I will always love Indiana. He was honestly Indiana Jones is not just an iconic character in his own right, but he's also the first person I ever cosplayed when I went to conventions. And I've been going to conventions for 15 years, Ben, and I only started cosplay within the last 5-6 years, right before the pandemic hit. So I've gone as Indiana Jones, I've gone as Marty McFly, 1985 with the red vest, by the way. Or you could call it a life preserver, whichever. So how long you been in port? Excuse me? No, I can see that's where you wear that life preserver. Coast Guard. Here's the man you have with the car out there. He's all right. Thank you. What are you doing in the middle of the street, a kid your age? Anyway, sorry. I love Back to the Future. I could quote that verbatim. But still, I've cosplayed as a Jedi because I love Star Wars. Star Wars is in the blood. It's in the bloodline. My family took me to see all the movies growing up, so that's kind of a big deal. So yeah, no, my boss is the devil. I'm intrigued to read that. My brother's keeper. You completely sold me on that one. I'm sold. So yeah. If these mystical objects fall off some of the back of one of those guys' trucks up in Connecticut, just hit me up, man. Dial the phone. I'll hit you up. But just throwing that out there, Ben. But what is it? Celtic says Ben's books are for you then, right? Yeah. So you got a lot of support in this chat box. That is for sure. What do they call it? Hook, line, and sinker. Who's an author, living or dead, you want to have a conversation with, and why?
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually just emailed with him, but it isn't really a conversation per se. So one of my absolute favorite urban fantasy authors, and especially because his books don't always fit exactly the genre. There's a fantastic Canadian author named Charles DeLint. All right, and Charles DeLint wrote a series called the Newford series, and it centers around a small fictional city in it's like near, I think it's near Toronto, but it's a fictional city in Ontario, and it's where I was really introduced to the melding of some traditional European fairy folklore and like First Nations, like Indigenous peoples folklore, because Charles did that in the Newford series. You get introduced to characters, like Crow and Raven and and other of the very archetypal Indigenous spirits. And I would love to just sit down and yap with him about those stories, his inspiration, because it was such, especially Let Sleeping Gods Lie and Corbin's series was inspired directly by Charles's work. That's why I emailed him. I said, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for putting these stories out because they've been such an inspiration to me." And it's true. I've done my own version of what he did in New Haven, because Connecticut also has a rich history of Algonquin tribes. Specifically, it was the Quinnipiac, which are kind of lost to the passage of time. But the Golden Hill Poggusets are still there in Trumbull, Connecticut, as well as others. So yeah, that was it. I would love to sit down and have a coffee with Charles DeLint and chat about books.
There you go, man. There you go. Just keep the journey rocking and rolling. What is one book that belongs on everyone's bookshelf?
Oh God, don't make me pick. I guess I'm not allowed to say mine, right? I don't think that's allowable in
Yeah, it can't be one
situations
that
like
you've written
this.
or published. No, can't be that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go for a classic that I remember loving, that I think would be a something that everyone should read. Okay, whether or not it's your favorite,
Right.
I feel like everyone should read a really good translation of Beowulf.
Ooh.
So, and I don't remember if there is the challenge with authors of the last 20 years is eventually we will name one that has become problematic in one way or another. And if this author has in any way, I apologize, but I'm unsure. So the translation that I read was by an author named Seamus Haney, and it was fantastic. It's still on my bookshelf, even though I haven't read it in 15 years or so. But yeah, read a good translation of Beowulf as a really, really classic literature. I could name any other, like tons of other modern novels that should be on everyone's shelf, but the classics exist for a reason.
Very true. I got a number of them on my TBR list, which includes Jurassic Park, The Martian Tales, or A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I got Tarzan by Edgar Rice Burroughs. We have Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Big one.
so okay.
Mhm.
I'll add to the classics. So like going forward from Beowulf, I
Yeah.
really do think everyone should read Fahrenheit 451 and A Brave New World by Aldous
Ooh,
Huxley.
we read that for school. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that those two books weren't so relevant today.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But there's a quote from Brave New World that's actually been going around a lot recently that has to do with the fact that I think I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's that the administration will tell you not to believe your own eyes and ears. And so Brave New World is a must read for people these days.
Yep, we read that for school back in the day. I'm trying to think, where was that anyway? Was that middle? No, I think it was high school. And then we didn't get to Fahrenheit 451. We read Beowulf, and then we watched I watched the CGI live action hybrid movie with Angelina Jolie and Ray Winstone from the late 2000s, I want to say, which is 2009, 2010, something like that. That was a weird, twisted, creepy movie. To be honest with you, that Beowulf was just weird. But then again, the story itself was probably weird. It just went over my head. But that's interesting. But yeah, I got my TBR is like 600 miles deep. It's pretty bad. I got all this over here. I got a stack of books over here, stack of books over there.
Mhm.
I got this other shelf over here to my left, which is on the other side of our studio, respectively. So there's a, Hefe, you do not understand what it means to have a plethora. Yeah, I got a plethora. Oh yes, you have a plethora. Yeah, I do have a plethora of books that I need to read before I croak there, Ben. So I got a lot of work to do. It's great, and finding the time is darn near impossible. What is it impossible is the fact that this has been an incredible episode of And I Quote for this week, and I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Ben Schenkman for being here and sharing some things with us, and also tell us about your small press, because that is, in the words of fascinating. So if someone wants to know more about you and purchase copies of your books, where can they follow you?
All right. So first you can go to my website, which is like right here. You can go to benschenkman.com. I do have a social media page where it has links to all of my socials, wherever they may be. You can always reach out to me via my website. I love hearing from readers. I will happily chat your ear off about my books or other people's books. You can find my books on Amazon, but also, so ebooks are in Kindle Unlimited. So the ebooks themselves are tied to Amazon's ecosystem, but paperbacks and hardcovers are available widely wherever it is that you like to buy your physical books. The first two books of The Devil You Know, which is My Boss is the Devil and Dueling Shoulder Angels, are available in audiobook and widely available. So wherever it is that you like to get your audiobooks, you can find those two. The third one is still in production as we speak.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, kind sir. I'm going to speak to you here again momentarily. So in the words of Arnold, stick around. My name is Ryan. You can follow me across all forms of social media. Where am I pointing to? Where is it? At And I Quote channel. That's where you can check us out on all forms of social media. That's where you can check out some of our previous episodes of And I Quote. We do movie watch-alongs on Friday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern time, where we celebrate a movie turned a certain age that particular week. We talk about Maul Shadow Lord. Our latest episode is going to drop here pretty soon, so make sure to go check that. If you've seen the show, beware. It's going to be spoiler-heavy discussion. So if you haven't seen it, watch the series, and go into our Star Wars Nerds playlist and watch the Shadow Council. It's been a lot of fun doing that the last several weeks. If you want to check out my short story called Wolf of the West, it is a part of the anthology known as Western Tales Volume 1, published by Veritas Entertainment. It is available on veritasent.com. And you can find it on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and hardcover. 16 different writers, 15 different stories. If you want to introduce somebody to the Wild West, straight up Western genre as a whole, saddle up and get on it. Just do it. Do it. But thank you so much for joining us. Do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when the videos go up or they go live. Remember, life is better when supporting indie creators from all over the world. Take a look.
Choose high-flying action. Choose death-defying escapes. Choose spine-tingling thrills. Choose nail-biting intrigue. Now's your chance to choose the adventure. The Captain Hawkland Adventures. Available on Amazon.com.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.